Our goal is to contest every single shot. We didn't get out on our closeouts and contest, and they're a great shooting team.
Like I said, I felt I got bumped a little bit, and I was honestly trying to shot fake them to get them to foul me.
Did you see Caitlin Clark last night? She was this close to a triple-double and set a franchise record for three-pointers. But get this, the Fever still lost. How is that even possible? Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from this wild game against the Lynx. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Now, you'd think with a star like Clark, winning would be a slam dunk. But here's where things get wild. It wasn't the players dropping the ball, it was the coach. Christie sides made some decisions that had fans yelling at their screens. Want to know what went wrong? Let's talk about Coach Christie sides for a second. She's supposed to be the mentor guiding our hero Caitlin Clark and the Fever to victory. But in this game, Sides was more like that GPS that keeps telling you to turn right into a lake. Her coaching choices were so off, you'd think she was trying to win a game of how to lose a basketball game in 10 plays. First up, let's talk about those substitutions. Sides was swapping players in and out like she was playing musical chairs. She'd bring in players who were colder than a penguin's toenails, disrupting the team's flow. It's like she saw the Fever building momentum and thought, nah, let's shake things up and see what happens. Spoiler alert, nothing good happened. But wait, it gets better. Remember timeouts? Those things coaches use to stop the other team's momentum or give their players a breather?
No, I think there were some times probably when we go back and watch, we probably needed to execute something that was a little longer.
I thought we kind of stopped playing in a way that made us successful in the first half, so just a good learning opportunity for us.
Well, Sides forgot they existed. During the third quarter, when the Lynx were on a tear, Sides just watched. No timeouts, no strategy adjustments, nothing. It's like she thought, hey, let's see how big a lead they can build before we do something. These coaching blunders had a real impact on the game. The Fever started strong, building a 10-point lead. Clark was doing her thing, the team was clicking, and it looked like they might just pull off a win against their hated rivals. But then Sides' questionable decisions started to chip away at that lead. You could see the frustration building on the court. Clark and her teammates were giving it their all, but it's hard to keep momentum when your coach is making more substitutions than a desperate fantasy football player. One commentator even said, Christie Sides is back to her old self, blowing a 10-point Fever lead. Ouch. It's like watching a superhero movie where the mentor keeps giving the hero bad advice. Oh, you have super strength? Try using this plastic spoon instead of your fists. That's basically what Sides was doing to Clark and the team.
A lot of it was us. We weren't where we were supposed to be, just in like a five-man shell. Like we weren't at the nail. We weren't in 2-9. We weren't in help. We weren't in gap.
I mean, it happens. Sometimes they get called, sometimes they don't.
Now, I'm not saying Sides is a bad coach overall, but in this game, her decision-making was more questionable than a cat's loyalty. It's like all the progress the Fever had made recently just vanished. One critic pointed out that Sides' coaching seemed to revert to the struggles they had earlier in the season. Talk about taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. The worst part? This isn't just a one-time thing. There's a pattern here. Sides has a tendency to let games slip away, and this match against the Lynx was a prime example. It's like she's playing chess while the other team is playing basketball. But here's the thing. Even with all these coaching missteps, Clark and the Fever didn't give up. They fought hard, trying to overcome not just the Lynx, but also their own coach's decisions. It's a testament to their skill and determination that they managed to build that 10-point lead in the first place.
Our goal is to contest every single shot. We didn't get out on our closeouts and contest, and they're a great shooting team.
Like I said, I felt I got bumped a little bit, and I was honestly trying to shot fake them to get them to foul me.
Remember that 10-point lead? It vanished faster than a magician's rabbit. What happened in the third quarter turned this game from a potential Fever victory into a nightmare scenario. How did Clark handle this sudden collapse? The Fever's dream start quickly turned into a full-blown nightmare. That 10-point lead? Gone in a flash. The third quarter hit them like a freight train, and suddenly, they were the ones playing catch-up. The Lynx went on a tear, outscoring the Fever 29-12. It was like watching a completely different game. You could see the frustration building on Clark's face. She was trying everything to keep her team in it. One moment she's calling out plays, the next she's trying to rally her teammates. But it was like trying to plug a leaking dam with her fingers. Every time she made a play, the Lynx had an answer. And here's the kicker. Clark was still bawling out.
And that we've got to make sure that we clean up, because this is someone we could possibly play.
I mean, I think I could have done a little bit better job controlling my own emotions, but I think it just started bad for us and then continued to snowball, and that's something we have to control a little bit better.
She was dropping dimes, grabbing boards, and putting up points. But basketball's a team sport, and one player can't do it all. The rest of the team, they were struggling to find their rhythm. It's like they left their shooting touch in the locker room at halftime. Now, don't get me wrong, Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell were putting in work too. Boston dropped 20 points, and Mitchell added 23. But outside of the big three, crickets. It was like the rest of the team forgot they were allowed to score too. The Lynx, on the other hand, they were firing on all cylinders. They went on a 14-0 run, and you know what's crazy? Coach Sides didn't call a single timeout during that stretch. It's like she was hoping the problem would just solve itself. But let me tell you about Clark. Even with everything going wrong, she didn't give up. She was out there looking like a young Diana Taurasi, all fire and determination.
She's just a hell of a, her competitive spirit is like, it reminds me of Diana Taurasi.
You could see it in her eyes. She wasn't about to let her team go down without a fight. She was everywhere on the court, trying to make something happen. One play she's driving to the hoop, the next she's dishing out a no-look pass. It was like watching a one-woman show, but the rest of the cast forgot their lines. And here's the thing. Clark's competitiveness was contagious. Even as the lead slipped away, you could see her teammates feeding off her energy. They might have been down, but they weren't out. Not as long as Clark had anything to say about it.
Early shots that didn't go our way, and then long shots end up being long rebounds, which is hard to get back in transition defense.
Every quarter besides that was third quarter was bad.
But man, that lack of scoring support was killer. It's like Clark was trying to bail out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. She'd make a great play, and you'd think, okay, here comes the comeback. But then, nothing. The rest of the team just couldn't find their groove. You gotta wonder what was going through Clark's head. Here she is, putting up near triple-double numbers, and it's still not enough. That's gotta be frustrating. But you know what? She never showed it. She kept her head up, kept pushing, kept trying to make things happen. It's that kind of mental toughness that separates the good players from the great ones. And Clark? She was showing she's got what it takes to be great. Even in a losing effort, she was proving why she's such a special player. Clark's brilliance wasn't enough to secure the win.
I think they're maybe 11 or 12. And so we have to take advantage of where we have the advantage.
It's going to be hard to win a game when they outscore you by 17 points in a quarter. It's impressive that we got it back to 1 point.
But it might have unlocked something even more valuable. Remember that franchise record for three-pointers? That's just the tip of the iceberg. What if I told you this loss could be the catalyst that transforms Clark from rookie sensation to WNBA superstar? Let's break down those final moments. Clark was giving it her all, pulling off moves that had the crowd on their feet. She was draining threes, dishing out assists like they were going out of style, and grabbing rebounds left and right. But sometimes, even superhuman efforts aren't enough to change the outcome. The Fever ended up losing to the Lynx, and you could see the disappointment on Clark's face. But here's the thing. That disappointment, it's fuel. It's the kind of thing that turns good players into great ones. Think about it. Clark set a franchise record with those 5 three-pointers. That's not just impressive, it's historic. She's already making her mark on the league, and she's just getting started. This game showed us that Clark isn't just a scorer. She's a complete player, capable of impacting every aspect of the game. But it's not just about the stats. It's about how Clark handled herself when things weren't going her way. She didn't give up. She didn't start pointing fingers. Instead, she rallied her teammates, tried to spark a comeback, and played her heart out until the final buzzer. That's the kind of leadership you can't teach. It's the kind of thing that makes veterans sit up and take notice. Clark's showing that she's not just here to put up numbers, she's here to win, and she's willing to do whatever it takes. Now let's talk about what this means for the Fever. Sure, they lost this game, but they've got something special in Clark. She's the kind of player you can build a franchise around. Her performance, even in a losing effort, is a beacon of hope for this team. Think about it. Clark's already setting records. She's already showing she can hang with the best in the league. And she's doing all this as a rookie. Can you imagine what she'll be capable of with a year or two of experience under her belt? But it's not just about the future. Clark's impact is being felt right now. She's making her teammates better. She's forcing opposing teams to game plan specifically for her. She's putting butts in seats and eyes on screens. That's the kind of impact that can transform a franchise. And here's the really exciting part. Clark's still developing. She's adding new weapons to her arsenal. A mid-range jumper here, a floater there. She's not content with being good. She wants to be great, and that drive, that hunger for improvement, that's what separates the all-time greats from everyone else. So yeah, the Fever lost this game, but in the grand scheme of things, this might be a turning point. This could be the game we look back on and say, that's when Caitlin Clark really arrived in the WNBA.